Okay, so the next piece that we're going to have a look at is some data generation. So data generation is really the idea of being able to synthetically generate data in bulk, in mass, in quality, depending on what your goal is and what you're looking to generate data for. So for this, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new data set, and we're going to call this data generation. So we'll start by generating some people, and we'll start to build on some of the things that we can do in here, and we're going to need a data pool as well. So if we come in and edit our data pool, there's a couple of ways of doing data generation, and it does really depend on what you're trying to achieve. If I come in and I choose my people table, this will kind of open it in a flat format in front of me. If I click this little green guy up in the top right hand corner, the plus icon, here we can create and save a new record. And you'll notice that our table gets moved to be a used table. Now, TDM will essentially tell us what's good and what's bad. So red is bad, yellow is, it doesn't really matter. So understanding what our not nulls are, what are required by the database is very important. Understanding what relationships and need to be adhered to depending on related tables and parent-child relationships and all that sort of stuff. Very, very important. So doing the profiling at the beginning, understanding your database is required. So there is two ways really of doing data generation in simplest form. You can either come in here and we can start to build rules using our data painter, and our data painter is a very powerful part of the tool set. I will come and explain more about this a little bit later on. The other approach is you could come into the database, you could have a look at the tables that you're working with. You could maybe choose a record that is interesting, so record 1, which is amber null, and we could potentially go and write that into our repository, and that will take the context, so it'll take our data pool and it will give us a record to go and work with. So that's going to put this row in here. Now if we just close this down for the moment and just give this a little refresh, so you'll see I've got a static row which we've taken out of the database, pre-populated, lots of stuff in there, and we've got our kind of empty row to work with. Now I prefer doing the second approach where you go into the database and you steal a record. The reason being you can tree walk through the database, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. So if we're going to do that, we might as well delete our top record, and we can actually start to change some of these static values into more dynamic values. So for example, with the primary key, our primary key needs to be unique, and next value will kind of go and do that for us. It's a pre-built variable that allows us to go and do this. So before I get into it too much, the data painter that we have in front of us is a very important part of the tool set. You'll see it pop up in lots of different places, helps you to build variables. It's in Agile Requirements Designer. It's obviously in a lot of different places and parts of the tool set because it's essentially the rules engine that allows you to build the type of data that you require. So some important things to note: it's split up into 4 key sections. So this top section where you're able to put in key variables, the data type, essentially what rule are you trying to obey. So in this case numeric 10, it's a mandatory column, so some data has to be present in here. Then on the right hand side we've got a little columns. If you click on that, it's going to show you some information about it in terms of what other people have been using for it, the current distinct min-max counts, all that sort of stuff. So if you've done some data profiling, this is quite helpful. Now when you're in a table called people ID, not as helpful because you typically kind of know what's going on there. But if you've got a strangely named table or something that you're new to, this can be very, very helpful. If you click on this little blue guy as well, it will show you what other people are doing. So if you've seen the data cloning exercise, this is what we've built here, and that's the function that's being used. So we could go and steal other people's work to kind of accelerate ourselves through the process. Then what we've got are functions, lots of functions, so huge amount of functionality here. I will not run through probably a percent of these, but there's lots of things to explore and try, and if you think I need something to work in a certain way, there's probably a function or combined set of functions you can use to do that. In the middle we've got some columns, so these are ways of maintaining referential integrity, doing lookups, that sort of stuff. Very, very helpful in here. and our variables are the way that we are able to essentially put in runtime variables. So if we want the dates to change, if we want to be in the future, in the past, you have a kind of set of system variables. You can also come and build your own variables based on your own logic and your own kind of rules and criteria. So if you've got certain SQL lookups, or you need to go into lots of different places, 2 different databases, for example, you can build variables to help you do that particular process. Variables, very, very powerful, one of the core parts of data generation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change a few fields around here. So I'm going to change the first name. I'm going to come into my functions. I'm going to choose a random list of values with a seed name, and what it's going to do is it's going to look up to a set of seed tables that we've got. I'm going to use first name and title, which means that in my first name I'm going to go and choose column number 1 from that particular seed list, and it's going to go and find me somebody to go and generate. And if I come into my designation, I'm just going to change this to say column 2, and it's going to go and take an associated title and first name, so that if I do a little preview icon up here on the right hand side, I'll get a Mr. Corey Gildenhall and Gildenhorn, sorry, and so on and so forth. And this little area here is free text, so I could make everybody a Riley or go and do whatever I want. What I will do is again just come into here and I'm just going to pick a last name from something like so. Last name's marvelous. Give that a little validate. Hubble. Perfect. So these are doing things randomly, so we should get different names, different combinations each time. You'll also notice in here we've got lots of other stuff. So we've got addresses, phone numbers, maybe an email address that we want to play around with. So let's go and reference my everyone. Let's take everyone's last name and let's put them at a certain company. Oh, excuse me. And then we'll say ca.com, like so. And if we wanted to, we could put in the first name as well with a dot in there, like so. You can kind of experiment and kind of see what fits. Now I'm just going to put the last name in. The reason being we have only got 40 characters here, so it's not a huge amount of space to play around with, especially if you get somebody with quite a long name. So once we're happy with that, we can do a bit of publishing. That publish, we can then choose how many records. That's going to load into my test environment, my test database. And there we go, we've got 100 records inserted into people. So if we come into people, we should be able to spot the newly inserted records, and we can kind of see them all here as they've got different email addresses. So we'll see that we're all linked up very nicely, Jack, so on and so forth, and it's obeying the rules that I've put in, and that data is now ready to consume. So I did mention about tree walking earlier. Tree walking is very, very important part of the tool. It allows you just to make sure that you are generating into each of the right tables that you want to work with. So for example, if I create a new data pool, I'm going to call it people and credit cards, like so. If I come into my data source and again I say look for my people where my ID is equal to 1, and if I select this record, I can open up its child accounts. So I can open up the fact that it's got credit cards. I can see it's also got other things as well. What I'll do is I'm going to write all of these into my test data repository. It's going to go into that data pool for me, and this time it's going to have 1 record in people, but it's going to have 2 in credit cards. So like so. Now what we could do is we could come in and we could make some relational edits. The relational edits should go through and process the fact that I've got a foreign key link in here. If it doesn't do that, or it's something that's missed, because I've got 2 tables open, what I can do is do a bit of self-referencing in here, like so. And what that'll do is it will go and take whatever information is held in my people ID table. So it's like a SQL join, essentially, going and getting that piece of information, which is marvelous. Again, I'd want to come in here and just make sure my foreign keys and primary keys are all set up and good. For example, my card ID, I need that to be unique. And I want my second card ID also to be unique, like so. And just as before, we might come through, we might make some more changes, we might put in something to generate different types of card numbers, different types of people with different names. For the moment, I'm just going to leave that blank, or just leave it as it is, so we get lots of the same people. And I'm just going to go and generate some more records. So there we go. So I get 10 people, each person has 2 credit cards, so I get 20 rows asserted into the database. And if we come and have a look a little bit further down, we should be able to start to again hopefully spot, I think it was Amber Knoll. So these are the new records that we've inserted in. And Amber number 155 should have an associated credit card. So where people ID is equal to that. Make sure your typing is on point, unlike mine. Spot the error where credit card. Let's actually have a. So what you can do, which is typically a better approach, you can do a bit of drag and dropping in here. So if we say credit card like so, let's take you out for the moment. Run that. So we've definitely got a credit card PEO ID where PEO ID equals 155. There we go. So there's the generated data associated with Amber. You'll notice the card ID's unique, going kind of sequentially upwards, which is nice, but it's maintained the referential integrity and all the other stuff that we've taken from the database. Now, typically, obviously, we'd want to start changing some of these values and having a bit of a play around. We'll do some more videos on some of the more complex or the more interesting things that we can do. Hopefully, it's been helpful. In terms of data generation, there's lots of different ways of doing it. This is a very intro session to this, so I will start to put out more and more videos just showing some of the more advanced techniques and the different use cases and the different lookups that you're able to do.